Hello, everyone. I'm Dr. Melissa Tranquille, business and life success coach. I help entrepreneurs and professionals to take action, achieve their business, professional, and personal goals by applying the right success principles. I'm so excited to be here right now. I just want to apologize. This week we were supposed to have our Facebook Live last week, but I had a freak accident. I actually fell and hit my head. So I got some pretty positive messages from some persons. Thank you for the positive vibrations and the prayers. I'm feeling much better. And welcome to all of you who will be watching live and those who will be watching the replay. You will be able to get great value out of today's training. Today's training is entitled The Right and Wrongs of the Things to Do List. Believe it or not, there is a right way and there's a wrong way of preparing your things to do list. There's a right approach and there's a wrong approach of preparing your things to do list. And we all know what the things to do list is. There's no need to go into details on that. It's just a list that you take and you write down the things that you need to get done. But why do a things to do list? That's what's important. Why should you do a things to do list? And in order to talk about the importance of a things to do list, I want to start off by sharing a story in order to demonstrate the importance of a things to do list. And that story is taken from teamworkandleadership.com. And they shared a story of a teacher a wise teacher who was trying to teach his class, to pass on an important message to his class. And he was doing this through an exercise. So he took a really big glass jar and he placed it on the table. And he filled this glass jar with rocks. And he filled it with rocks until it filled the jar. And he asked the class, is the jar full? And everyone said, yes. And he said, really? So then what he did is he pulled out some gravel, a bag of gravel from under his desk. And then he poured some gravel into the jar. And he shook the jar so that it will fill up all the spaces. And the gravel filled the glass jar up to the brim. Then he asked, is the jar full? Some persons answered, yes. He said, okay. He took some sand now, and he poured some sand into the jar. He shook the jar, and he shook it until the sand filled up the jar. And then he asked the same question, is the jar full? Now, by now, not many people want to answer. So a few people said, probably not. He said, good. So now he poured some water into the jar until it filled up to the brim. Is the jar full? Some person said, yes. He said, great. Now he asked this one critical question. If I had started off with the water first, would I have been able to add the gravel and the rocks and the gravel? The class said, no, definitely not. So what was the purpose of doing this? The purpose of doing this was to say that the rocks that he started with first, the rocks demonstrate the important things that are in your life. What are those things that are important to you? What are those things that matter the most to you? This is what the rocks demonstrate. And this is the question that you need to ask yourself. What are those things in your life right now that matter to you the most? These are your top goals, your top priorities. So then why are you doing a things to do list? You're doing a things to do list. You're preparing a things to do list to help you to achieve your goals. Your things to do list, they set your intentions. So when someone looks at your things to do list, they can see what your intentions are to achieve or accomplish the task or the projects or the goals that you want to achieve. And that's why you're doing a things to do list. Another thing is that preparing a things to do list will help you to manage your time wisely. It's a great time management technique. It helps you to manage your time and how you manage yourself and what you do with your time. Hello, Traveling. Thanks for joining. Yes, but what I want to say is there's a right way and there's a wrong way of doing your things to do list. So let's talk about the wrong way first. What's the wrong way of doing your things to do list? Some of the wrong things are to have a separate list. Some persons have a list for home, a list for work, and a list for, if they have a business, for their business. Do you do that? Because at one point in time, I did that, and I'm going to share very soon how I changed that and why I changed it and what were the benefits I gained from doing so. So one of the wrong approaches is having separate to-do lists. Thank you, Traveling, for sharing. So this video will be of great benefit to you. I hope you can listen till the end. And there are many persons who need help in that life area. And once you can get some improvement in that life area, you will be able to see a general increase in your productivity, your efficiency, and of course, getting closer to your goals. So I was talking about number one, the wrong thing to do is to have separate lists. Another thing is to be inconsistent. So sometimes we might start with our things to do list. We start with a bang on Monday, and we do it on Monday, on Tuesday, and then we fail to do it for the rest of the week. And then we say, oh, but that doesn't work. But we were inconsistent. So we're not able to see the benefits of seeing the benefits of consistently doing your things to do list. Another third wrong way is not writing it down. How many of us, or how many of you watching the video right now, have your things to do list in your head? I used to do that many years ago as well. No need to feel bad. It's all about learning and development, growth and development. But we have our things to do list in our head and we don't write it down. And what that does is we're giving ourselves something that is called brain fatigue, because we're placing pressure on the brain to remember everything that we've mentally written down on that brain. But there are studies that show that when you write things down, it helps you to develop better memory. It helps you to cope with stress. Because you have a structure and a plan for the day, you will be more effective. And proof of the effectiveness of our things to do list was actually found by two professors. I think the names are Professor Bomister and Masicampo from Wake Forest University. And they performed a study and they found that there's a psychological advantage of keeping a things to do list, because it sorts out confusion and it clears your mind. It helps you to eradicate the stress and anxiety, and you will be more effective from simply writing things down. So there you have three wrong characteristics, wrong approach of the things to do list. I can list many more, but these three are three critical and common ones. Number one, that's my list. Number one, we have separate lists. Number two, we're inconsistent. Number three, we do not write it down. So we give ourselves brain fatigue. So there is a way to go about doing it, the to-do list, correctly. And now I'm going to share with you the right way to prepare your things to do list. But when you're doing your things to do list, I want you to consider these essential characteristics. Whatever you're putting on that list must add value to your time. It must add value to your time. And even your me time is adding value to your time, because I was coaching a client recently and he said to me that he has a problem with relaxation, because he felt so guilty relaxing. He felt really, really guilty. But when we sat down together and we prepared a plan of the things that he needs to do, and then he started taking action, he sent me an email expressing how joyful he felt because it was Sunday and he was relaxing and he has no guilty feelings. And that was a great breakthrough for him, because when you start to do your things to do list and you accomplish the items on your list, or even most of the items on your list, when you're ready for that relaxation time, the leisure time, the family time, the me time, you won't feel guilty. You won't feel guilty doing so. So even the relaxation time, it adds value to your time. How? Because when you relax, after you've done what you need to do, Your brain helps to recuperate. Your mind gets refreshed. You become reinvigorated. So now re-energized, so that now you can go back to doing the things that you need to do when you're ready to get them done. So it must add value to your time. Then it must be realistic and doable. Some persons have the belief that the length of the to-do list demonstrates how efficient or how productive they are. No, it doesn't, my dear. I should have taken my book. I have my things to do list. I have a notebook that I use. And my things to do list is not a full page of work only, which I will get to later on. So it's not a matter of how long your things to do list is. What is important is what is on your things to do list. That is what is important. And are those items getting you closer to the goals that are important to you? And if you join in now and you missed the story at the beginning of the video, you can go back and listen to that key story that I shared when I started. That's what's important. So you have to make sure that it's realistic and doable. Don't overcommit yourself. Because too, when you overcommit yourself, it stresses you out. And then you become stressed. And what happens is that you're unable to accomplish the rest of the items that you have on the things to do list, or even perform as effectively as you would like to. So it hampers your productivity because you're stressed. Thank you, Trevlin, for sharing. That's very good for sharing. So I hope by the end of this video, you will be motivated to take action and start small. And I will share how to do so by the end of the video. Thank you for sharing that. So make sure it's realistic and doable. And also too, what I want to encourage you to do is make sure it's within the context of your day. Because what happens is there are days when it's not just like any other day. You may have family emergency that you know you have to take care of the next day, or maybe the kids need to see the doctor, or you need to see the doctor, or you have some meetings on that day. So you make sure that you prepare your things to do list within the context of that day. Because if you fail to do so, again, you will have a long list, you overcommit yourself, which pressures you and causes you to be less productive. Another thing to remember is that your to-do list has to help you to reach your goals, your personal goals, your professional goals, and if you have a business, your business goals. Thank you for joining, Fancies. Great to have you here. So it has to help you to reach those goals. And another thing is, when you do your to-do list, it will help you. A great advantage of doing a to-do list, preparing a to-do list, it helps you to unconsciously break negative habits, break old habits, and develop new ones. You know, I think his name is Srivanas Rao. He says that when you consistently begin to write events down and you begin to write things down, you're more likely to transform this into an unconscious habit. So in this way, you move away from unproductive habits like procrastination or forgetfulness, and you adopt more productive habits. So that's why it's great to prepare your things to do list. These are some of the benefits, and these are some of the things that you must consider in preparing your things to do list. But how do you do it? How do you do a things to do list? I'm going to share with you, and I can share with you, I believe I'm an expert in that field, and I say that, you know why? Because I practice it. It's not a matter of reading things from a book, but I practice it in my daily life every single day. I practice it. So I have my annual goals, and if you do, that's good. If you don't, I encourage you to revisit them. What are your annual goals? What are the goals that you want to achieve this year or in the next 12 months? And then if you can break it up into quarterly goals, and then every month, you identify the goals that you want to achieve for that month in all the areas of your life that are important at the moment. So I have my monthly goals. And then I have my weekly goals. And those weekly goals, everything that I accomplish every week gets me closer to achieving my monthly goals. I'm going to break that down. So let's just say for this week, I've already set my weekly goals this week. What you do is you characterize, you group your goals. You group them together. So work, you group your work goals. If you have different projects working on, you write down the project, you write down the tasks that need to be completed under each project. You group those work goals. If you have a business, you group your business goals. Group them together, like items together. And then you also put your family goals in that weekly list of goals, but you have them in groups. Exercise, health and fitness, you have that there as well. I do it personally, so I'm talking to you from experience. I should have really come with my book. And then what I do now, every single day, I prepare my things to do list for that day. I prefer to do mine the night before. Some persons do it in the morning. That's all well and good. It's important for you to find what works for you. I've found that when I do it the night before, that works for me. My mind is more at ease when I go to bed. When I wake up in the morning, I already know. I look at my list once and I know what I have to do because I've already written it down from the night before. So I find that works for me. So what do I do? How do you do your things to do list for that day? So for that day, since I have a business, I have my business goals. And I put all the items I need to do. So I have, okay, if I have a webinar, I have webinar. I have, okay, like the Facebook Live, I have the Facebook Live. And what I do is I have the tasks that I need to accomplish under each group. So for the webinar, I have to work on the webinar slides, prepare webinar slides. On the Facebook Live, I have to write my notes, prepare Facebook notes. So you group the goals together. Now, what you need to do next is, again, if you have for family, I also have family time, and I actually write down what is it I intend to do with my family for that family time. Then I have exercise. I write down what I want to do for my exercise. If I will go jogging, if I'll be using the elliptical trainer, what it is I will be doing for exercise. I even have what I will eat. And again, why? Because I want to lose weight. I find it's easier, like I mentioned earlier in the video with brain fatigue. It's easier if you write it down because you give your brain fatigue, and then even the stress causes you to fall back into the old habits. So that's why I write down what I'm going to eat for the day. So if I'm going to have a shake for breakfast and salad for lunch or whatever, I actually write it down for the day as well. All that is on my things to do list. And I'll tell you why. Let me tell you why. I used to prepare separate things to do lists. Like I mentioned, the wrongs of the things to do list earlier in the video. So I had one for home and one for work. What happened is, and if you do that, let me ask you a question. Which one will take precedence? Which one always take precedence? Work, of course, always dominates. And then at the end of the day, oh, I'm too tired to exercise. Oh, I'm too tired to do this activity with the kids. I just read a story. And these fall into the back burner. What I have found from my personal experience from having one things to do list is that exercise has become of equal importance to my work items. Hence, if I don't do the exercise in the morning, I try to fit it in at some point in time during the day because it has become of equal importance, even if it's going for a walk, but it has become of equal importance. In the brain, and in terms of the instruction that I've given to my brain by having one things to do list, I've given that instruction to my brain that making time for exercise, making time for the kids, this is of equal importance to my work items. And that is why I encourage you to have one things to do list. I can tell you from experience, eventually, it took me a while to get to that point until eventually I began to feel the equal importance that it had. And now I can tick off whether it's 3 or 4 times a week. I've gotten the exercise done. I've done this with the kids. I've done XYZ. I've now had that work-life balance much better. So I encourage you to do your things to do list. So I was talking about how. So how you group the items. You have one list, number one. Number two, you group the items. And number three, this is very important. I want you to remember this. Allocate the time that you will spend for each activity. This is very important. I personally do it as well. So what happens is that If you know a particular activity took you 1 hour to do today, and if that's an activity you do every day, for instance, you work in an office, you draft memos, and you have dedicated, okay, 1 hour for drafting the memos, responding to memos. And then you realize, hey, it took me 45 minutes or half an hour today. Or it takes me an hour to prepare webinar slides. And then I realize, hey, look, today I did it in 45 minutes. You're able to monitor your productivity. So that's why it's great to allocate the time that you're going to spend on each activity. And it helps you to budget your time. You know, my husband says there are two things we budget frequently: time and money. We budget our time. We don't realize it, but we do budget our time. So when you allocate the time that you spend for each activity, even exercise, even with the kids, and even the me time, include the me time on your things to do list. And that's another thing many people fail to do. So we have all the work items and everything else. And maybe, yes, you have the gym, but you don't have the me time. And what happens is that you feel guilty when you're having your me time. Because why? Again, the instruction that you send to your brain. Remember, when you prepare your things to do list, you are instructing the brain that these are your intentions. These are the intentions that matter to you in your life. So you're sending that signal, that message to your brain. So when you don't even include your me time, it's indirectly, unconsciously, you're telling your brain it's not as important. That is not as important. And that's why sometimes some of us, we don't get around to self-care, or we feel guilty doing it. So even include that on your things to do list, that me time, the relaxation time, and what you choose to do with it. So I encourage you to do that. Allocate each time for the task. And then lastly, one of the most essential things that you must do after you have the practice of doing your things to do list, of preparing it every day, one of the most important things that you must do is to evaluate your things to do list. And let me just say this before I go on any further. Even if it's Sunday and it's not a work day, prepare your things to do list, because I do. Even if on that list you have a great big family trip, you put family trip. Or you put church. And then after church, you have whatever you want to do, you put that also, so that you keep the habits. It helps you to build the habits. It becomes a good new habit. Don't just do it Monday to Friday, because again, you're telling your brain Monday to Friday is what matters, which is work. So it becomes a habit. And then lastly, I want to encourage you to evaluate your thing to do list. That's a mistake that a lot of persons make. The mistake that a lot of persons make is that they do not evaluate the things to do list. They prepare the list all well and good. They follow the list all well and good, but they don't evaluate it. Evaluating your things to do list is taking it one step further. It can help you improve your productivity and efficiency, because you can look back at your things to do list and see, hey, I got this done for the week and I failed to achieve this. Why did I fail to achieve this? Oh, you know, I overcommitted myself. I really had too much on my things to do list. It was impossible. When you really look at it now, I'm like, but that's impossible. I can't do that. You know, I had too much on that list. I overcommitted myself. Or why didn't I achieve this? Well, I was distracted. This particular task was essential and I failed to complete that task. I didn't even get around to touching it because I was distracted. Whatever your distractions are, your time stealers. We all have those time stealers that we have to be watchful for. What are your time stealers? It distracted you. So you can evaluate that things to do list. And then when you set in your new things to do list for the week first, like I advised, your weekly items, and then for the daily items, you're able to set a better list. A list that is based on the context of your day, a list that is realistic and doable, using the SMART goals the same way, and a list that will give you work-life balance, and at the end of the day and at the end of the week, you feel fulfillment. Because even if you don't get 100% done, but you've gotten most of the items done on your list, and it's not just work. So you feel a great sense of fulfillment. There was a time in my life, and I'm not afraid to say this, but there was a time in my life where the work items would get done and the exercise won't get done, and all the things I promised to do with the kids during the week. Yeah, the weekend is fine, you get it done, but during the week, the things you want to squeeze in to do with the kids, you want to teach them some French or teach them maths, or sometimes you play names, places. How many of us used to play that game when you were small? I play that with my kids, you know, to squeeze in some fun time. And oh, I didn't get around to doing this week. So you could evaluate yourself. You know what? When you evaluate your list, you realize, hey, you didn't achieve balance this week. Why didn't you achieve that balance? What did you give more priority of? How did you spend your time? Because your things to do list is all about managing your time and managing yourself and what you do with your time to get you closer to your goals. Whatever your goals are, you'll have your professional goals, you'll have your vocational goals. Perhaps you're pursuing a study, you're pursuing a graduate study or whatever, a course of study. So you have your vocational goals, you have your health goals, you want to lose weight or you want to become fitter and healthier. You have your family goals, you want to bond closer with your kids because you want to spend more time with them, you want to bond with your loved ones. So your things to do list sets your intentions and draws you closer to achieving those goals and all those things that matter to you. So I really hope that you got great value out of today's training. And I hope that you will take action. Take action, set your monthly goals, set your weekly goals. And each week, those goals will draw you closer to accomplishing the goals that you had planned for the month. And every day you do your things to do list, whether it's in the morning, first thing in the morning, or whether it's before you go to bed, you do your things to do list following the steps that I outlined. I could go on and on and on, but I'll have to cut it short here. Yes, I'm very passionate about it because I do it personally and I know the rewards of doing so. Because you feel so much more fulfilled and satisfied at the end of the day when you do the things that are important to you and you get the things that you need to get done. But you also get to spend time doing the things that you love to do. And that was also on your list, your hobby and time with family and exercise, etc. So thank you so much, Trevelyn and David and Fancy and all of you who watch live. And for those of you who will watch the replay, I know you will still get great value from this training. So make the time and start now. Don't put it off for tomorrow. Start now. If your day has already ended, plan what you're going to do tomorrow. Plan what you want to accomplish this week. Write down your big goals. What are the changes you want to make in your life? And start now with your things to do list. And every day, I give myself a tick with a red pen in particular. That's what motivates and inspires me. You can find what motivates and inspires you. I love to see my ticks, that it's done. So I want to encourage you to take action so you can achieve all your goals. Thanks for watching. If you ever want to know more about me or get access to some of the resources that I have, hop over to my website, www.peaklivingwithmel.com. Thank you so much. Bye for now.